let's go to page 1. On page 1, it teaches you about different kind of numbers. So first, let's talk about the natural number. Okay. The natural number would be the counting numbers, what comes naturally. So when you start to count on your fingers, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, so you start with 1. Okay. The next category is the whole numbers. Whole numbers is more like a arithmetic numbers. So you have a 0 over here, so that you can do arithmetic, right? So that, for example, like you have 1 minus 1 will give you 0. So you need a 0 to do some math, okay? Then the next bigger category would be integers. Integers would be the one without fraction or decimals, okay? So it'd be all this would be just numbers, okay? The next category would be rational number. The rational number came from the word ratio. Ratio means fraction. So any number can convert into fraction would be rational number. So all these are rational number. For example, like 4. If you notice, you put 4, you can make into 4 over 1. Okay? So this would be rational number. So rational number means ratios, means you can put into fraction. So like 0.5 is equal to 1 over 2, right? So this is a rational number. Okay, so any number can put into fraction, can convert into fraction is rational number. Irrational number, the prefix IR means not. So irrational means it's not rational, means it's not fraction. So these are numbers that you cannot make into a nice fractions, like pi. Pi is non-repeating, non-ending. It's 3.1459, whatever, keep going, right? So and square root of 7, again, this would be a decimal number with no ending and no repeating, okay? And so same thing. So these are example of irrational numbers. Okay. The next one is a number line. Number line is a line with a number. That's why it's called a number line. It's just a line with numbers. Okay. And the origin is 0. Origin is where it begins. So when you have a number line, it begins at 0 and it can go either direction. Okay. And each number, okay, each point on a number is paired with exactly a number, and the number is called a coordinate. So like the coordinate of this point would be 4. Okay, so 4 would be the coordinate of the point Q. And when you're going to do the graph, when you're going to graph a number on the real line, when you're going to graph a number on the number line, you just put a dot. So this would be graph. Okay, so this would be the graph of the point Q, and with a coordinate of 4. Okay, so you can graph and just put a dot on it. And the coordinate is the number that match with the location of that point. And origin is a 0. Okay. Okay, so next let's go to example 1 on page 2. Okay, so you have this number line over here. When you're doing a number line, you make sure that they are equally spaced and the increments are the same. You can go by 2s, you can go by 5, but make sure they are the same. So don't just go random. Okay, so you have -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. And so you have a point over here, and this is a C, and this is a point over here is D. So you're looking for the coordinate of the point 1/3 of the way from C to D. Okay, so to find a point that is 1/3 away from C to D, first you have to figure out the distance. Okay, so from C to D, okay, and the way you do that is the CD. So from C to D is equal to. Then the way you do it is you can either count the numbers, but if the number is like really long, then it's become impractical to count them, right? So the way that you do it is you use the end minus the beginning. So the end is 2 minus the beginning, and so CD will equal to 4. So that will give you the distance, okay? And so a lot of time you use the absolute value to indicate it's a distance, okay? So absolute value means the distance. So distance. So what it says here, the distance from C to D is the end point minus the beginning point, and they'll give a distance of 6. And you want 1/3 of the way. So 1/3 of that will equal to 1/3 times 6, and this will equal to 2. Okay? So from here to here is 6, and 1/3 of the way will be 2, and so the point that you're looking for is over here. And the way you do that is you start from point C, which is -4, right? That's your starting point, and you want to go 2, so you plus 2, and this will give you -2, and this will be coordinate of that. Okay? So again, that's kind of the math behind that. To figure out the distance, you use the end minus the beginning, okay? And then from there, you can use your starting point, and you can add to go this way or subtract to go that way. Okay? So this is the answer for example 1. Okay, now let's go to the topic below the example 1. The symbol, this means it's less than, this means greater than. Okay, and so for example, you have a -3 is less than 1. So the way to say it is -3 is less than 1. Okay, you read from left to right. Or another way to say it is 1 is greater than -3. So 1 is greater than -3. Okay, and number line normally, okay, you want to do it so that it increase from left to right. So, and you go and it decrease if you go from left to right, from right to left. So again, it's going to be increase this way, and it will decrease as you go that way. Okay. Okay, let's go to example 2. It says graph the number -2 and -6 on the number line. Okay. Again, you don't always have to start with 0. You can start with any number, and you can go have any increment. Okay, you can go by 1s, which is more common, or you can go by 2s. You can go by any numbers. Okay, so we want to graph the -2. So we're going to start with -2, and that would be a point, right? -2. Actually, this is not a good idea because you have to have a -6. Okay, so -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1. Okay. Okay, so you want to graph the -2 and -6. Again, notice I don't have to always have a 0 in the middle. Okay, so you can make the number line any way you want to suit the problem you're doing. So again, I don't even have a 0 on here. So again, you don't always have to have a 0 in the middle. Okay, so graph the -2 and -6 on a number line, and write an inequality statement comparing them. So the most of the time you want to go from left to right, so you go -6 is less than -2. Okay? Or if you want to turn it around, you're going to have a -2 is greater than -6. But I would prefer this way. I would prefer go from left to right. Okay. Okay. The next thing is below the example 2. It's talking about opposite numbers. Okay. Opposite numbers is negative of each other. Okay. So for example, so example 1 and -1, they are opposite of each other. And -2 and 2. These two are opposite of each other, and opposite means just times by -1. So if you times this by -1, you get that. If you times this by -1, you get that. So again, they are opposite of each other. And the 0 in the middle, the opposite of 0 is 0, because if you times 0 by -1, you still get 0. Okay, so again, so this is like think of this as like your mirror. Okay, so this you can reflect over the mirror image, so this would reflect over. Okay. Next, let's go to page 3. This is absolute value. So you have the 2 bars. Okay, so absolute value means make it into positive, and so this will equal to 5. The geometric interpretation of the absolute value is a distance from the 0 to 5. So what this means is, here's your 0. So absolute value of 5 means the distance from the 5 to the 0. So what's this distance? So that's what it's saying. Okay? So again, absolute value means the distance. And if you're looking for absolute value of negative 5, okay? Absolute value of negative 5 means the distance between the negative 5 and a 0. Okay? So what's the distance from negative 5 to the 0? Okay? Again, distance is absolute value, is a distance, so it's hard to be positive, so it answer will be 5. Okay. So again, absolute value means the distance means it's always positive. Okay, okay, let's go ahead and do example 3. A. It says find the absolute value of each expression. So you get negative, absolute value of negative 4. So when you're doing this kind of problem, you have to know your order of operation. So in this case, you need to do this part first. Okay, so drop this straight down. So negative drop straight down. And this part over here, again, absolute value means positive, so it would be a 4. And so it would be your answer, negative 4. Okay. Now if you go to B, you have absolute value of negative 6 minus absolute value of 6. So again, you have to do the absolute value first before you do the subtraction. Okay. So absolute value of negative 6 is equal to 6. Absolute value of 6 is 6. So therefore, this will equal to 0.